What was the Magna Carta? Why did the English crown accept such an arrangement? Was it just something that was for namesake, or did the king really lose absolute power after the Magna Carta? What was the Magna Carta? So we spoke about Henry II, right? The great king of England, the great Angevin king, yeah, of Normandy as also. His son, his successor after Richard I was John, King John of England. Now, Richard I, Richard the Lionheart, was this very vigorous warrior king who was more interested in fighting than ruling. So he spent his whole life fighting, and eventually he got killed out of sheer stupidity or carelessness. There's no need for him to get killed the way he got killed, but that's a different story. So Richard the Lionheart is dead, and then John comes to power. His younger son, one of his younger brother, sorry, one of his brothers, John, the son of Henry II. So John was a weak king, and he issued this royal charter called the Magna Carta. Okay, this royal charter, the Magna Carta, it listed the king's powers, and by listing the powers of the king, it limited the king's powers. And the Magna Carta also enshrined, affirmed certain customs, certain liberties, certain privileges of the church, and also of the king's minions, the king's barons. So it essentially was a written agreement between between King John and his barons who had rebelled against him. See, King John, the son of Henry II, Henry II was great, was a great king. His son, King John, was a weak king. And he was not a good king. He was not a good administrator. I mean, you can be a good administrator even if you're not a great conqueror, right? But he was not that. His rule was unpopular, widely unpopular. His taxation was heavy. The kind of justice that he imparted was very arbitrary. He was a military failure. He lost most of his father's French territories, French lands. His finances were ruined. His prestige was down the drain, essentially. So that is King John. And because he was a weak king, his minions, see, every king has nobles and barons and all who serve him, who have their own armies that are to be provided to the king on demand, on demand whenever required. That sort of thing. That was the structure, the feudal structure, the structure of that part, England and Europe of the time. So a group of his barons, most powerful barons, they rebelled against him with the backing of the church. They organized a rebellion against King John. And in the year 1215, they captured and occupied London, which obviously, if you capture the capital of England, of Britain, it gives you a tremendous amount of leverage. It gave them a very strong bargaining position. And once this happened, the capture and occupation of London, it essentially meant civil war. Civil war became a real immediate threat, a real clear and present danger for King John. So the Archbishop of Canterbury, obviously Thomas Becket is dead by now, so whoever was next, or whoever was the Archbishop of Canterbury at the time, he said, I'll be a mediator. And what he did was he supported the barons. In what way? He took the barons' list of demands, okay, and he converted that into a formal text, a formal charter text that could serve as a peace agreement, a peace settlement. And this is something that King John had to sign. Otherwise, there would be civil war and he would be defeated. So this came to be known as the Great Charter, or the Magna Carta in Latin. And this document, essentially in this document, the King of England promises all kinds of rights and privileges, the protection of church rights, various church rights, protections from unlawful imprisonment to his minions, to his barons, technically his minions, right? He promises reasonably swift justice. The charter limited various kinds of taxes. What is the maximum kind of tax the crown can impose? And it also limited the amount of payments that the barons had to make to the crown, to the King of England. So this listed down exactly what are the powers that the king has, and by doing that, it curtailed his powers. Okay, it curtailed his powers, and yeah, so this is where historians will tell you that this is where you have a properly codified, the beginning of properly codified rule of law in England. But who benefited from this? Did the people of England benefit from this? They did not. Around this time, 90%, 95% of the people were either peasants or slaves. It's only 5% which were the king and his knights and barons and the military people and the church people. Everybody else was oppressed. Everybody was peasants or landless serfs or slaves. Did the 95% of the population, did they benefit? Did they gain anything from the Magna Carta? Nothing whatsoever. So who gained? Who benefited from this? It was the barons and the church that benefited. So the rule of law was for them. No arbitrary injustice and arbitrary justice and all, that was for them, not for the common people. They continued to be oppressed for the longest time. Now they are free, I suppose. So that's the deal about the Magna Carta. Okay.